All right, we're gonna switch gears. You're checking out Weekend and Gabe's with Weekend Gabe and the real Sam Crane. Joining us now from his lovely home, Scheme Navarro, or just goes by Navarro these days. How are you, sir?
I'm good, brother. So how y'all doing?
Good, man. We're just having a little bit of fun as we always do.
Awesome.
We get excited during news at Gabe's. I'm so glad you could join us. It's good to see you, by the way. I know it's been a long time, but
Yes.
it's always fantastic to check in with you.
Thank you.
I really didn't know, and this is probably to my own detriment and fault, of how much you were involved with Loop Theory and how much of you were and part of. And I'm interested to find out sort of the early groundwork and planning of this. But Loop Theory, you guys are a distribution of an artist development placement. You guys have a great roster of young artists out of Chicago, including Brittany Carter, Olive Blue, just to name a few. You guys are really growing something, building something that's been hugely in demand for Chicago for years. Since I started doing this media thing, this has been a common thing that I've heard, that Chicago doesn't have a home for building talent, and you guys are filling that void and that gap. All right, let's take it from the beginning. Where did this drive start from? Was this sort of a transition for yourself from being an artist into filling this void, and maybe you and yourself noticing that there was a gap? How did you arrive at this point with founding Loop Theory?
For sure, brother. At its purest form, man. Really, I started a after school program at the time in Little Village.
Yes.
I was at CPS, and it was called Beats and Bars. And so that was the first time that I stepped away from just being an artist, where I was in the room producing a project and developing artists. Some of these kids had never in their life rapped a word in their, ever, had never written down a bar, had never. So it was like, oh, okay, I'm really just taking them from zero to, now we're putting out a project. So that was the first time that I kind of stepped beside myself as an artist. And that was when a light kind of just went off on me, like, man, we're just right here. Like, this is needed. Youth need these type of spaces.
Absolutely.
And then on a grander scale, I was like, man, artists in Chicago need this type of guidance. Like, there's a lot of really good artists out there that are good at rapping, or might have, good songwriters, or might be good at, but they haven't really explored their full potential, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was really at its core when it started for me. So that was about 2000. I mean, I started the program in 2013, 14, something like that. But Loop Theory came up in 2018. So that's when I stopped the program during that time. I still wanted to keep developing artists and manage artists. One of my students at the time, Kenneth, graduated from the school that I was with. He continued. I had, continued helping him, once he was outside of my program, I would still connect with him, got him an internship at a studio. And then him and I kept connecting. He knew Brittany, he knew Dre, he knew Olive. And I knew of them. I knew they were talented. Same thing, just artists that were dope, but kind of needed a little guidance, needed just, consistent releases. And they just hadn't really taken that step on their own. They had the talent.
Right.
And so, yeah, I was just kind of connecting with Kenneth, because he wanted to produce. He's like, I don't want to be one of these, just selling beats to random artists, producer. I want to try to really develop, So I was like, well, wait, Brittany's dope. Why don't you connect with her? Dre's dope. Why don't you? And so it went from there to me putting a small studio at the house that I had just bought at the time, getting them in there to just start building with each other. Because again, they were all amongst the same circle. They knew each other, but they had just never worked together. They had never really put the time. So when I just saw everything, I was like, yo, this is it. This is it right here. It took me a couple months to kind of just piece it together and let them see the vision. I naturally let it happen. I didn't force anything. I know what I could bring to the table from all the years that I had been in, just being part of the scene, being an artist, the connections I've made. I always made it a point to be in good terms with people and just treat people respectfully. So I was able to easily come back around and be like, yo, I'm doing this now, introducing the artists I'm working with. And so, yeah, in some ways I was able to usher certain things, and help out because, I already had some connections and some people that had already written about me or had already booked me for a show so I was just kind of reintroducing everyone to what I was doing now. And yeah, man, it's been a real natural kind of thing since then.
Absolutely.
The thing that people say the most in Chicago is people don't love to support. And that's why I've been so excited to have you on, because I just feel like you've been giving out all of that good energy that you mentioned. talk about dealing with ego on a roster that large. You know, it seems like you guys put aside, you know, a lot of that and are able to mesh together. Is there a lot of dealing with like playing chess around the topic, or is it just?
Nah, man, honestly, I think it's just, I think in general in life, I've done a really good job at putting the right people around me just in life, right? Forget music, forget anybody else. We just don't click, if the chemistry isn't there, if, you know, just, I tend not to keep people around for the sake of keep people around. I'm never there. I've never needed anyone for something that much that I needed to keep them around for something like, and I'm not a person to move with ulterior motives. So it's just like, if you're just not good people, I just rather not deal. I don't care how talented you are, or what you. Just like I rather not have that.
Right.
And so because of that, honestly, we don't deal with that up until this point. I mean, everyone's you know respectful. I think everyone understands how talented each of them are, and because of that, they warrant each other's respect, and they're just open to working with each other. And I mean, I think just at the end of the day, man, just good people with good hearts just so happen to be very talented.
And y'all got a chance to display that at Van's Channel 66 the other night. Were you a part of that? Were you in the building for that?
I was not, just because they had to keep it COVID safe, you know, so there's a limit on the people that could be there and stuff. So I decided not to go, but it was really dope to see everyone on stage together. Everyone's been so actively doing things on their own that we don't always just come together as a group. So to see Olive and Brittany and Dre all together on there, and Kenneth and Disrupt, it felt good. You know, it feels good to really see what we've been doing all these years, and so natural, and just how I experience them on a day-to-day basis, and who they are is just who you see, you know. And so for those reasons, I'm excited, you know, because again, man, they're good people, and I want to see them win.
I definitely got a little bit of a Justice League vibe seeing them all up on stage together. I was like, wow, the team's really uniting, you know. I was like, damn,
but you know what? That's the thing, bro. That's the powerful thing. I'm like, I don't think really we haven't really put that image out there like that, just because, again, like, we just, you know, everyone's been doing their thing on their own, and not for any other reason other than, again, man, everything's been organic. Everything's as strategic as you might have to be sometime around releases or certain things like that, or just planning, you know, being organized. Ultimately, you know, we go off of what feels right, you know, so for those reasons, yeah, but that day I got that same feeling. I'm like, okay, this is powerful, right? Like, it's one thing to see Dre on his own, it's one thing to see Brittany on his own, but seeing everyone together, I'm like, okay, this is dope.
How does it feel moving? Do you feel like kind of like a player coach, to use like another analogy of what's happening? Like, you know, you have all the skill set from your own experience, but now you're giving it back and applying it to this new batch of talent that's coming from the city. Is that does it feel natural, or, you know, like sometimes people like feel like, oh, if I'm in a coaching or if I'm in teaching, and like my clock is up, you know, as being a performer. But like, how do you sort of juggle those feelings?
I will say this: that mentality I did get that mentality when I started Beats and Bars. I was listening to a podcast. This homie Sycamore was on it, and I had been a fan of his from like his mixtapes back in the day, right? He used to do like so. But then he had gotten an A&R position at the time, and he said that, you know, he got a new job at a label, and they threw him in there, and they're like, yo, he had like 10, 15 new artists, and they were like, come out with like a compilation project or something. And he's like, yo, I literally had to walk in there and be like, yo, who's good at this? Who's good at that? Who am I? And so just having that mentality, he kind of broke it down like a coach, like, who are my star players? And I was like, okay, cool. So literally that day, because I had started that program with no experience. I mean, I had written reps, I had put together albums, but again, it's one thing to like do that and like actively do that, and it's another thing to put it like in a lesson plan, right? And be like, oh, at the end of this. So I was like, all right, crap, what am I gonna do now, right? So once I heard that out, that was the mentality. I was like, okay, cool. Who are my key players? Who are my starting five? Who am I going to be able to depend on? Who am I, you know, who's going to come off the bench? So I did start picturing things like that, right? And like, so in order for me to have this final product at the end of 8, 10 weeks, 12 weeks, like, I needed to work like that, because I knew my guy I couldn't get the bench player guy to be my MVP by the end of the season. It just wasn't realistic, right? But I knew I could get him to spit the hottest 16 that he's ever rapped up until his 15-year-old age or whatever, right? So again, I have now, that mentality is there with the Loop Theory in that sense, where it's just kind of like, not in that sense, you know, everyone obviously is completely different than my experience at the Beats and Bars thing, you know, as far as the talent level goes and things like that. But it's the same kind of thing in regards to, yes, I think they consider my opinion a lot more because of the fact that I am a creative and I have been a creative, and they respect the work that I've done. And so because of that, when they do ask for advice, you know, especially because someone like Brittany, who warrants, who's that type of MC who, if let's say the type of music I made was like watered down, clubby, hip hop, whatever, I don't know if she's gonna come to me for advice or ask me like, yo, what do you think about this bar? You know, but she'll ask me for input. She'll ask me for feedback. Oh, that I, you know, do you think I could do better? So for those reasons, I think it's just because it's just a mutual respect. And so I think for that difference, you know, there is something there that, as opposed to someone who doesn't have that background but is trying to do this role that I'm doing, it's
Right.
kind of tough for someone who's never created a piece to tell someone or give someone an opinion. Like, yeah, you might have an ear, and I don't take that away from people. Obviously, there's a lot of people that have never done music that have an ear for music, and you know, but I also feel there's a whole different thing when you're also just good at what you do, right? Let's say in this situation, the craft. And so because of that, you know, yeah, they are more likely to take my advice. And you know, when I pitch them ideas for a beat or a song, you know, they're more open to those type of things. Or like in this last situation for me and Dre's album, you know, he had a bunch of songs. He just kept sending me a bunch of music. When this last year, you know, when everyone's home, I had over 150 Dre songs in my iTunes, you know, and I'm like, all right, bro, like, what are we going to do with all this? Like, this is a lot of music. But, you know, I kept hearing like what ended up being I Fall Apart When They Leave, right? The project. So he had all these random songs, but I knew these 10 songs just kept hitting me like, yo, these right here are special, bro. Like, you need to. And so just that, you know, and him taking a while from like buying into that idea of putting a whole project together around this type of, you know, topic and whatever. And but again, I think if they didn't respect my vision, they didn't understand, you know, where I was coming from, I might get a little bit more fight back in those things. But it's mutually respectful. I'm also not tampering too much in their stuff. You know, they're artists, and because I'm also on that side of things, I'm also respectful of the process. I'm not, you know, if you invite me to the studio, I'm there. You know, but I'm not in your session if I don't need to be. I'm not, you know what I mean? Because I know how that is too, right? I need my time. I didn't like having people in my sessions hanging out and doing nothing, and you know, for those, I'm mindful of those things, as opposed to other people sometimes aren't considerate because again, they don't know that someone might be shy. They sound great on record, but maybe in the studio they might have some inhibitions, or but you don't think about those things because you've
Right.
never been in that side. You know what I mean?
So,
Yeah.
so I don't want to get lost here because I want to talk about the newest development, the
sure.
distribution platform, Loop Theory Distribution. I want to talk about the new artist Godspeed, who I've been listening to some of his music, and wow, what is the distribution platform? How can artists use it? And what is your vision for the long term on a project like this?
Yeah, for sure. So the main thing with the distribution thing is, so I partnered up with a distributor. It's basically a homie of mine, right? They've been working at this for years. They built out their software, right? Basically that we could connect to our DSPs. So I have a partnership with that, and they've been distributing our Loop Theory releases up until this point, right? And so made sure everything worked and everything was fine tuned to the best of their abilities, and made sure that we were getting things done, and you know, kind of crossing anything that we felt across the way. Now that we kind of perfected it and we've been confident in that, my other part in developing artists, a lot of times I also understand that they end up going to DistroKid or CD Baby, and you know, we've all used those. You know, most of the artists that I worked with at some point, they were using those services as well. Great services in their own rights, but there's obviously, I feel like, a disconnect, just in general, like there is with labels, right, where there's no real development of that project. It's just like, here, upload, and you know, whoever could do it for a certain amount of, you know, for a certain fee. And so for the Loop Theory distribution, one, I understand that I can't manage every artist that's in Chicago or in, you know, or different cities or you know, around the world, but I still want to be able to develop a project. I still want to help develop an artist. I still want to help distribute their music up until when are able to find a situation, and maybe some of those situations might bleed into eventually becoming a client on the management side. But that's not the vision for this. It's really for it to become its own distributor, for it to be the same way I feel that we're setting a standard where Loop Theory releases, right? With the Britney release, with the Dre release, and just quality music that comes. I want the same thing to fall under with the loop theory distribution thing. I just want people to understand, like, anything that comes out of this it's been selected. It's, you know, there's some development behind it. It wasn't just like this person just uploaded it and now it's just up on the service. There's some plans behind it. And that's why I'm also accepting like demos, right? Sometimes artists will never put out a project because they have like all these dope demos that just never really came into fruition, and because of that they never submitted for distribution or whatever. So I'm also like, send me those demos. Like, if I find talent in what you're trying to work on, and you know, we could provide other services to try to make you finish that project so you get to put it out, right? And so I want to hear those songs. I also want to hear the stuff that, you know, because a lot of kids are working on music in their rooms and stuff like that, and they might have a really good, you know, look at when we would hear Wu-Tang back in the day, right? The recordings, the shit, we didn't care. It's dope, you know, and it was great music. And so to me, I look at it the same way. There could be the next wave of that, and yet some kids might hold themselves back because they're like, oh no, it doesn't sound how it should sound, so I'm not going to distribute it, or I'm not going to put it. I send it over to us. Who knows? It might sound really dope, and we might be able to, you know, do the last little things we need to make it sound how, you know, proper or whatever. Main thing at the end of the day is developing these projects, developing artists, but also letting them do their thing. We distribute their music. We could be an extension of their team, but ultimately, again, just so they're, you know, just artists here could actually talk to us where, oh, you need a takedown. Oh, you need to edit something on your project that just dropped. Oh, you know, all those things go through us. And so, yeah, it feels good to be able to start that because there isn't anything like that here. And so I'm blessed to have that partnership. I'm blessed to be able to offer something like this. And I look forward to just, again, curating just a dope catalog of music that's coming out of Chicago, but it's not just Chicago artists, right? And we're starting here, like you said, we started with Godspeed, dope artist from the west side of Chicago. He was also one of my students at the time from back in the day, and I just stayed in contact with him. And, you know, one of those same thing, when I first heard him, I was like, yo, you know, so much potential, so dope. But at the time he was, you know, 15 or whatever, 16. But I just knew, like, yo, fam, if you stay to it, like, you got it. And you know, same thing. So the fact that on their own, you see them trying it out, you see them trying, you know, shoot their own videos, you see that. So it's like, okay, you're really having an attempt at trying to make this happen. So that's why I kind of swooped in and I was like, look, bro, same thing. You had a lot of music. I was like, let me select 6 joints that I think are your really 6 solid joints. Let's put this together as an EP and let's put it out. Let people know what you're, and so they start even realizing the potential that they have themselves, you know?
I think that's and I think that's so important too, especially for young artists who are making their own music and they're so quick to just put it up because they want that instant reaction, or they're, because we live in this social media age of wanting likes and wanting attention. But it's like just having someone like you or Loop Theory in place to help craft, like, listen, like, these are really great, but it could be better. And I just think that with artists, younger artists, either they don't know or don't care. So it's
sometimes, exactly.
Yeah. But I think it's great that there's going to be a home now for someone to submit something like, hey, like, what is this missing, or what do I need to get to that next step, so that I can just get the project out, so I can have something to run on, and then, you know, work on it and build on it and, like, use it as foundational blocks. And I think that's so important to have, especially for young artists.
And jumping off the back of that, I feel like between the three of us, we've been on every side that you could possibly be on of the submission process. Obviously, you guys are going to get flooded, man. It's too cool to not be flooded. How are you moderating those
tomorrow, by the way?
I'm saying, yeah.
Let's go.
Like,
Gabe's been working on the album. That's.
Oh, no, I've seen all the mixtape covers you post.
Listen, I'm sure Navarro knows from Send and Slot. Like, I have rapping ambitions.
Oh no, yeah. No,
I need to be the 40-year-old MC on the Loop Theory label. By the way, that needs to happen.
There you go. So yeah, no, man. Ultimately, I mean, as far as, I mean, I'm just gonna be the same way I've done everything up to this point, man. Just, you know, going off of feeling, going off of the music. Right. If it feels right, if it's easy to work with the artist, I'm not here to force anyone into, you know, like, I don't like anything forced, you know. Just if it feels right, if the music sounds good, if the artist understands the vision, if we understand theirs, we move on to what's next. If it just doesn't align, it doesn't align. Again, I understand that I'm only one person. I'm not going to be able to completely, you know, just, I'm aware of what I'm capable of and what I do really well, and I want to do that really well, and for the people that I can, and then build you know, like I said, this Loop Theory distribution thing is, for me, it's gonna separate what we're doing as opposed to just being just a management and artist development company solely.
Right.
So the last before we let you go,
Sure.
what about yourself? Do you still have plans to record and put out albums yourself? Because I don't think that you're done, and I don't want to say that you're done. I know you have something left
Yeah.
to think.
You know what? I'm not done because I don't think as a creative I don't think you're ever fully done. I don't have that sense of urgency that I kind of, or this kind of misplaced that you would put on yourself as an artist, where I was, oh, I gotta be proactive, can't be slacking, I am so fulfilled with everything that I'm doing on this side right now, and I'm so busy that it kind of balances it out. And I think honestly too, it was a good transition for me doing the program. I still had my creative juices. I was still writing for people. I was still kind of in the mix. And even in this situation, I'm still at the studio sessions. I'm still pitching beats. So there's still that mindset that's working there. And I do songwriting for other people here and there and stuff like that. So that side of me is always gonna like exist. Yeah, but I'm not like, yo, I gotta drop this next project by April and then have the next single ready. Like, that's just not. I'm like, when's Britney's next project? When's Dre's next? Like, and it just feels good. And yeah, the day I want to come out and drop a project, because I will, right? Because to me, like, let's say the only two I say in my head, I put out the Modern Mexican Art project a couple years ago. So to me, in my head, when I started it, that was like a 3 project in a way, right? So I kind of need to, and those other two I already started writing them. One's of them more than halfway recorded. So in my head, like, those two, I at the very least need to get those out at some point. And again, but I'm not in a rush like I was when, let's say, maybe a couple years ago. But those would be the only two that I feel, in order for me to kind of just feel at peace in regards to my albums that I have in my discography, those would be like the only two that I would want to put out. And then after that, I mean, yeah, if it comes to me, it comes to me. I've been writing Mexican joints for my nephews now. You know what I mean? So it's just like, it's just different. I think to me, as long as I'm creative and as long as I have an outlet, I'm good. You know?
It's amazing to see you prosper, man. It's incredible.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, man. I hope everyone understands what we're doing here at Loop Theory, and I hope they appreciate it, man. Not for any other, because I've been at every point. I've been at different points in Chicago's hip hop history, and I think right now we're living in a special time. And I definitely want to help change that narrative of, like you said, that Chicago doesn't help each other and that everyone's on their own. Again, I understand that we can't do for everyone because it's impossible, but I'm definitely open to try to change that narrative and try to work with younger artists and do what we can, man. And I think my ear's in the right place and my heart is too. So for those reasons, I don't see us losing.
Absolutely.
So Navarro, thank you so much for spending time with us. I know we're interrupting family time, so we appreciate you giving us
Nah, thank you. Sam.
Apologies.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you having me. Thank you, Gabe, again, and Sam. Welcome to Weekend.
We'll have you back, man. We'll have you back, and we'll be in contact.
I'm reaching out. I'm reaching out to see how I can get my own Loop Theory shirt, by the way. So please let me know how I can get one of those.
Sounds good, brother. I will.
All right. That's our Navarro joining us. Have a great evening and weekend. Thank you.
Peace.
All right. That's man. And you just see how important Loop Theory is to not only to the hip hop community in Chicago, but just the music community, for bridging that opportunity for new artists to just get a shot or a chance to work on their craft and build their music inclinations up under great tutelage. And you just and it's like the success is on display. I mean, who's hotter than Brittany Carter right now? Like
nobody.
The last 2-3 years, it's been phenomenal. So I mean, I think the success is right there on the wall for people to see, and so I'm really wishing the Loop Theory a lot of success.
Yeah, man. I gotta say, I've been doing the Breaking Sound Radio for a year now, a little over a year, and I couldn't have done it without Loop Theory. So shout out those guys. And if you're looking for emerging music from Chicago and you don't know who Loop Theory is, you're fully out of your education spectrum, cuz.
Exactly.